Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's webinar. I would like to remind you that this conference is being recorded. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. For those connected by telephone requiring operator assistance during the call, please press *0. Web participants requiring support should use the chat feature on your screen. I would now like to turn your meeting over to your moderator, Erin Leith, Senior Director at the Canadian Foundation for Healthcare Improvement. Please go ahead, Ms. Leith.
Thanks very much, Val. Hello and welcome to today's on-call webinar entitled Are You Ready for a Little Bit Extra? Today we'll be talking about the 2017-18 Extra program. I'm Erin Leith, as Val mentioned, Director at CFHI, and I'm pleased to be your host today. We are pleased to have more than 85 registrations for this session, and as I introduce our guest speakers, I'd like to ask that you please take a moment to introduce yourselves in the chat box below. Please also let us know how many people are attending from your location using the poll on your screen. Please enter the total number of participants from your location, including yourself. So today I would like to introduce Isabelle Egot. Isabelle is Assistant to the President Director General, Managing Executive Director, Director General at the CS Laval, and a current Fellow in the Extra Cohort 12. Isabelle has extensive experience in the areas of innovation, continuous improvement, and quality performance for healthcare facilities. Acquired during the past 23 years, including 13 as a manager, this experience allows her to conduct strategic projects contributing noticeably to the great transformations of health and social service organizations. Also joining us today is Terrence Sullivan, Academic Coordinator for the Extra Program. Terry is a behavioral scientist, professor and senior fellow at the Institute for Health Policy Management Evaluation at the University of Toronto. He is also an adjunct professor in the Department of Oncology at McGill University, and in governance roles, he chairs the board of the Canadian Agency for Drug and Technologies in Health, the Quality Committee of the Hospital for Sick Children, and the Governance Committee for Tax Innovation, a federal NCE. From 2001 to March 2011, he occupied leadership positions at Canadian Cancer Care Ontario, and in the final 7 years as President and CEO. Terry currently provides a range of advisory services to governments and healthcare organizations in Canada and internationally. We also have our producers in the studio, Sheena Pell and Kelly Ripley, who are working hard behind the scenes to make today's webinar so successful. Welcome to all of you. We are pleased to be providing simultaneous interpretation for all on-call webinars. This may result in a few quick pauses in the dialogue today. We invite you to participate in our chat box in either official language. So on the call today, we are going to begin with an introduction to the basics of the Extra program, including its objectives, key activities, and deliverables. You'll also hear firsthand about the Extra Experience. Isabelle will share insights about the program from her perspective as a current fellow, and Terry will speak to the curriculum and highlight the experience and support offered by Extra's faculty and coaches. Finally, we'll provide an overview of the application and give you some more information on how to assess your organization's readiness to lead improvement through the Extra program. And we'll go straight to the next slide. Thank you. For those who may not be familiar, the Canadian Foundation for Healthcare Improvement is a not-for-profit healthcare improvement organization funded by an agreement with the federal government. CFHI is dedicated to accelerating healthcare improvement by building leadership and skill capacity to champion the lead improvement, enable patient and family and community engagement involving those who experience and need care as experts in making and co-designing improvement, applying improvement tools and methods to drive measurable results toward better care, better health, and better value, and creating collaborations to spread evidence-informed improvement across Canada. One of the ways in which CFHI supports organizations to achieve this is through the Executive Training Program. So in terms of the Extra program, organizations are asked to select a quality improvement project and identify a team of 3 to 4 current and emerging senior health system leaders, known as in the Extra program as fellows. Working in teams guided by experts, CFHI faculty and coaches apply, and supported by those faculty and coaches, fellows apply the knowledge and skills that they learn to design, implement, and evaluate breakthrough innovations and create conditions for their spread and sustainability. Renowned Canadian and international faculty deliver the extra curriculum with support from CFHI coaches and staff, and the curriculum is guided by the CFHI 6 Leaders for Health System Improvement, which is and delivered over 4 residency sessions and a series of interactive webinars, and supported by a self-directed online learning platform. In terms of the extra objectives, so extra is a 14-month fully bilingual fellowship, the only one of its kind in Canada. It proudly offers extra to enhance the capacity of individuals, teams to make change happen, build the capacity of organizations to achieve and sustain improvement, and to create a pan-Canadian community of leaders dedicated to improvement. Under that particular element of the pan-Canadian community, we now have 338 fellows across the country. So it's really a robust group of individuals you have the ability to tap into both during your cohort as well as those that are engaged throughout the program. So these are sort of the building blocks of the extra program. As I mentioned, the organizations identify an improvement team. That improvement team consists of 3 to 4 fellows. They may come from one organization, or they may be represented across a series of organizations who have decided to work collaboratively and lead an innovation together. The curriculum, as I mentioned, is delivered over a series of 4 in-person residency sessions, and they're really utilizing an improvement project. So organizations are asked to identify a priority improvement that they want to excel and move forward within their region, and they do so as both a way in which to make change happen in real time, while also it's a very critical learning tool. So the improvement project enables the teams to instantly take the curriculum that they learn from the faculty in the program and apply it in practice. So it's both a pivotal change management mechanism as well as an opportunity to really apply the learning in real time. So as I mentioned, more or one organization can work together. We have teams in the current cohort that have up to 3 organizations working quite successfully and collaboratively to think about how they're leading quality improvement. And then we tap into that network, and it's a fully bilingual program, so the entire experience, including today's webinar, you experience through simultaneous interpretation, lots of bilingual faculty, and that's one of the unique elements of this fellowship, along with the fact that it's really focused on leadership, the senior leadership. Next slide, please. So a few of the noteworthy additions to this next upcoming cohort is that we are going to focus on a special theme around integration of care close to home. So there's more information in the prospectus on some insights and ideas around what that might look like, but it certainly is an issue that is vexing the entire country in terms of how people are grappling with transitions of care and the use of supportive and advanced technology. And so we're really excited about this next sub-theme. It's not a requirement to apply through the sub-theme. Extra is and continues to be a general quality improvement program, so any organization is welcome to apply on any topic. We'll speak a little more about that later, but it certainly is, we find it very helpful to put out a call that attracts people who are interested in focusing on an area, which is integration of care close to home this round, because it allows us to do some unique elements in terms of the curriculum and focusing in on a few key elements that are of common interest to a number of groups. There's also going to be 4 in-person residency sessions. As I mentioned, these are taking place in June of 2017. So this will be a first chance for the teams to meet together. This will happen in Toronto. August 2017, we'll come together for a really intense work experience where much of the curriculum will be delivered in Tremblant in Quebec. And then in February, we come together in Banff, when we'll really start to shift gears and start to focus on readiness for sustaining the improvement project and the potential for spread and scale. And then in June, we'll come together again and do final presentations of the results. So that really takes us to that 14-month mark. Also, because we are very proud to have additional investment by the federal government at CFHI, and so once again CFHI is now able to cover the cost of the residency session travel and accommodation. So we're hopeful that that will remove barriers that may be challenging for people who might have travel restrictions and travel bans in their provinces or territories, and we're hopeful that that will once again make sure that people feel that they're able to successfully apply and to the program. And we do have an increased focus on patient engagement, which I'll speak to a little bit further in the presentation. I mentioned before the extensive network. This gives you a bit of a sense of this. This is a long-standing program. It started in 2004. This will be the 13th cohort. In that time, including our cohort 12, our current cohort, there have been 211 improvement projects undertaken by 338 fellows across 334 organizations. So there is quite a reach across the country. And as you see the stat on, we consistently evaluate the program and people's experience with it, and according to a recent scoping survey that we had completed of extra cohort 11, 82% are reporting that their improvement projects have led to significant changes within organizational culture. So it is shifting the way people experience and deliver care and building the capacity of their organizations. So now I'd like to pass it over to Isabelle, who will give you a really beneficial insight into her experience as she's partway through her extra fellowship. So over to Isabelle.
Isabelle Legault. Hello. So my name is Isabelle Legault. I'm happy to talk to you about the extra program. So next slide, please. My experience so far, I'm going to focus on imagery here to convey my experience succinctly. So at the beginning, I thought I knew what I'd gotten into, what kind of adventure I'd signed up for, and as the image shows, I realized together with with the other fellows that we had actually undertaken an adventure that really has to be experienced, and where you can't really anticipate everything, nor much less control what's going to happen. So you have to trust the experts. The program is run by some very, very experienced people, and so honestly, we've experienced some pretty complex feelings. We really were out of our comfort zone, but it's been an extremely rich experience. I really want to stress that. We learned to go with the flow, to the flow that sometimes became a tsunami. But you really have to let go and just go with it. So next slide, please. So within the format of Extra, it's very intense, it's very fast-paced, it's very condensed, and sometimes it's hard to keep up, especially at the beginning where you haven't really fully assimilated especially the residency format. So there can be challenging moments, but after every challenging moment, there's like an aha moment where you make a lot of progress very quickly. So fortunately, my colleagues, they also experienced those moments of doubt, but fortunately at different times than I did. So we were able to support each other. We were able to support each other. So to me, the magic of the program, as I said, it really takes you right out of your comfort zone. You can grow and learn a lot in record time, and learn together collectively, because it's this is an exercise that everybody's participating in. The faculty, I think, also learn a lot from the exchanges. And fortunately, it works because the program gives us to such an extent of knowledge, the literature. It's really knowledge coming together. There's the webinars, the coaching, really high caliber people, and it really leaves a deep it really leaves a deep impression. So next slide, please. The parachute was a pretty telling image for me, because we always feel very supported, the extra team, even though sometimes we feel like we're free falling. They always have our back, and they're always right there with us. They always listen to us. So they really want us to succeed. So the program talks about breakthrough innovations, and that's what really happens. Improving health experience for patients and their families, improving our services organizations. It really happens. It really works. So one key unique element of Extra is the coaching that we get on a monthly basis from experienced mentors. So each team is paired with a mentor, and the mentors are very experienced, very impressive people who are familiar with the health systems and who are there to guide us. They're not necessarily content expert nor cutting edge improvement experts like the residency sessions or the webinars, but the mentors are people who have a lot of background in health organizations. So the coaching is really, really personalized. And in addition to foundation staff, we have very, very, very good contacts with the coaches. It's really personalized, and it really makes a difference. Those are people who have extensive backgrounds in the sector, and it shows. So this is an extra feature of the program as well. So next slide, please. Why did I apply? Well, in addition to the fact that this is a program that's recognized, that has an excellent reputation, my spouse did it a few years earlier, and I was quite envious because he came back just raving about the quality of the program. Back then it was 24 months, I think, rather than 14, and so I heard about it for a long, long time while he was in there, and I'm still hearing about it. Also, one of my colleagues in my institution did it in 2015, and so when I heard that the experience was available for 2016-17, I just seized the opportunity. So the change in timeline from 24 to 14 months, because I've talked to people who did the longer version. This was really an adjustment in the health sector. There's a new reality in terms of time, but the new formula leaves nothing to be desired compared to the old one. The curriculum is all there, and the experience is all there, and it's still just as relevant. And now my spouse is envious of my ability to go through the experience as improved, new and improved. So next slide, please. So another key feature is that when I started thinking about the project, I had lots of opportunities, but I really had to focus on one key project. I felt that when you know the kind of transformations that have happened in Quebec and in other Canadian provinces, of course, I thought I would probably never be able to find 2 or 3 colleagues who were just as mad as I was to devote that much time and effort to a project, because back in 2015 we were just embarking on a wholesale transformation of the network. But fortunately, there were actually people who were as mad as I for improvement and who were as enthusiastic about it, and so we were able to put together a team, thanks in part to in no small part to the excellent reputation of Extra. And now the 14-month program, now you see there's a fourth session, fourth residency, plus webinars. So that's the strength of the program, the topics and the content and the formula of that. We found it very, very relevant and very easy to get into. So my project is to implement advanced care planning for chronic patients with short life expectancy in clinical practice. So that image to me shows that you're never too busy to make improvements, because we might have said, okay, we have so much to do in this transformation process, we don't have time to invest in a project like this. But when you have square wheels on your cart, yeah, it might be helpful to put on round ones. And that is actually a very good analogy to some of the things that are happening in our system, in terms of the need for innovation, the relevance of best practices. And after a few months only in the program, it's clear to me that I don't think there's an organization that can afford to do without this kind of input in terms of professional and personal growth and innovation support. This is a very efficient, very effective investment in a short time. You can realistically expect to implement a sustainable and breakthrough innovation. And there's a lot of common points, a lot of commonalities between different teams, different projects. So there's a very fruitful exchanges. And so once again, these programs actually work. They are actually concrete. They can be implemented, and you can really see growth at a very sometimes at a very high level within organizations, and that leads to real added value in terms of patient care and patient services. Next slide, please. So the time required, that's probably one of your questions. How much time do I have to invest in a program like that? The process requires, I would say, about 1 day a week for the fellows, each fellow. And now that, well, that can sound like a lot, but I would say that once again, what you take out of it, what you get out of it is priceless. From what I get out of it, what my colleagues get out of it, what the organization gets out of it, what our clientele gets out of it, that's so much more than the amount invested, the time invested. Sometimes it does get time consuming, like there are more intense times and less intense times, but you really get so much energy out of it, all that training, the quality of the projects that you produce, all that make the investment so much worthwhile, to the extent that when I looked at the dates for the next cohort and how the foundation keeps improving the program, I wondered whether you can go through the program twice. But anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but it's that good an experience. So next slide. There are some pitfalls, a few words of advice. Don't look for perfection. The project that you will be coming up with will not be in a final version. This is a learning process. You really have to remember that. There'll be trial and error, and you'll be starting over, or at least in part from time to time. But that's part of the learning. That's part of how you acquire mastery of the field. So this is how you make progress for yourself, for your organization, for your patients and their families. That's how you acquire new ways of doing, ways of thinking. This is a really effective way to learn. Sometimes you step back, but it's in order to leap further. For example, the advanced care planning, our advanced care planning project, we use the existing framework. We have in 2015, our act about the Advanced Care Planning Act had just been come into force. We had a Center of Excellence in Quebec that had provided prepared a guide on advanced care planning. So we felt it would be really really interesting to harmonize those best practices and to make them systematic. But our first attempts to describe the project using the tools that the program gives us, the charter, the first webinar that we went through, we quickly came to see that we hadn't yet, we weren't yet asking the right questions, the key questions, like what's the problem that we want to address? It seems simple, but it's not necessarily obvious. We were starting from the solution, but why were we doing that? It wasn't clear enough yet, so we were doing it backwards. Also, the scope of the project was much too large at first. Sometimes we tend to bite off way more than we can chew, and so this is a pitfall that you really have to avoid. You have to look at the project as one phase in a continuum. Try and break it down into more manageable pieces. So sometimes huge multi-year projects just become too much, and you drop them. So extra is realistic. You have to remember that to use a phrase, you have to eat an elephant a bite at a time. So the same with this kind of project. You have to really work on defining the scope of the sandbox you want to play in, and break it down into achievable phases. Sometimes it will take longer, and also you really learn a lot as you go through those smaller steps. Our goal, our vision is that on our territory of population of 450,000, that ACP be implemented. But the first phase is just to implement it within one type of clientele, a much smaller clientele, and then we'll learn, we'll improve, and we'll move on and have a sustainability plan to deploy it in the longer term throughout the territory, the region. So in the August session in Montreal, we saw one key part of our project come to fruition, the whole issue of patient advisors, and we were able to make the necessary changes to our project. Sometimes you feel you really nailed it down, but you have to be patient and just absorb all the new knowledge, and sometimes things look different after that, so that people, another thing is that brings in a lot stronger buy-in. The more rigorous the project, the more rigorously the project is planned, the more people will really buy into it. So we're able to become really clear and focused on the purpose of the project, and that helped us deal with a lot of difficulties related to change management and so on, because we had such a clear vision of the project's raison d'etre. And that's thanks to the in-person session in Montreal that we were able to do that. And it was a lot easier going after we'd gone through that. We improved our communication. We'd figured out better how to work with patients and families, because we'd understood that they had to be brought in right from the start, and that made all the difference. And that's probably the key to the project success. Next slide, please. So I would say that extra makes what at first seems impossible, possible. We often get requests in our institutions that we have to carry out very quickly without necessarily time to plan, nor even to evaluate. I don't think my institution is unique, because it often works like that, and sometimes you become more reactive than proactive, and you get into situations where you're like a firefighter putting out fires rather than a leader able to plan rigorously and step back. So both myself and my organization, in a very fast-moving context, this helps us to take the time to look at our capacity issues, our limits in terms of material, financial, time, resources, and we can discover how through very tangible support in a quick time frame, 14 months is pretty quick, but rigorously and methodically, we can create relevant, sustainable, strategic innovations that will help improve our organizational capacity. So this is in-depth transformation. We've started an improvement spiral to spread virally, if you want to spread improvement, because when we present the project and its evolution, people are really curious to see how it works, and in order to improve patient and family focused care. And so that's key, is to change our ways of thinking that have become reflexive over time, and instead try and go for quick successes, iterative thinking, and it's just like Parkinson's law, which I think is true, that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. So if I give you 14 months to perform a project, 24 or 36 months to the same project, you're going to take 14, 24, 36 months, and with the same results. So I think with the support that we get from Extra, I think that we can carry out our projects successfully, even if it's only in 14 months. So next slide. In terms of Extra's impact on my career, I see that the fish actually is a pretty good image from my experience. Get out of my zone of comfort. Well, you might say our comfort zone is shrinking with all the change going on, the reforms and so on, but in this case, the experience of Extra gave me tools that I really needed to be able to make a concrete difference after barely a year in the program, by creating an improvement project that was based on best practices. Also, another important aspect is that I was able to discover what's happening elsewhere in Canada, what's the best, in fact, around the world. So an opening on the best practices, innovations that we can apply in our organizations. Also a broader and fuller vision. It also gave me the ability to rise to a more general level of strategic, organization-wide vision. People tend to stick to their spheres of competency, but this gave me insights into a broader perspectives, and also I said I was able to learn about what was happening elsewhere, but this was also a chance for me to let other people know what we were doing. Also within our own institution, this has been an opportunity to learn what was happening in professional services, nursing, and the other areas within our brand new organizational structure. So Extra has given me improvements in knowledge from the micro level all the way to the macro level. So that has been extremely fruitful for my career. Next slide, the relationships. So human the human aspect of the program is important. When I started out the program, I didn't know my two colleagues very well who agreed to rise to the challenge with me, but there was one thing, the residency in particular is a great opportunity for even within teams to create relationships that probably wouldn't have happened without the program. So we're very complementary, my two colleagues and I, and I'm convinced that it's the extra format that has given us an opportunity to, to work so harmoniously. We've created new bonds of trust and collegiality, and that's been very helpful in lots of other areas within our organization, and that gives us really a major advantage outside the project. I've already seen the benefits from those relationships. We're working in 3 very different sectors, and my two colleagues and I, and now I've been able to understand their reality, understand their sector, and move other files ahead. So there's a lot of, even though we're in a very large organization and a brand new organization, that helps create interdepartmental, interdisciplinary relationships, and not to mention other fellows from across Canada. Without the program, those relationships happened. Next slide. So remarkable benefits, so there'd be a lot to mention. One is that what I get out of the program, I'm now highly motivated to give back to my organization. We learn at a very theoretical, very advanced level, and also we learn to apply that theoretical advanced content. So it's really very integrated, very concrete learning, and very applied. I had an opportunity to together with my colleagues to make a presentation on a tool that we call the BEAST. It's well, you'll learn about this driver diagram as you go through the program. It's very complex, but it's extremely interesting. And when you can tame the beast, it's like a brilliant modeling concept that and actually a lot of managers, since we presented it, asked us to find out more, and they adopted it too. So really interesting outcomes. I was able to transfer my knowledge in my community, and the more I talked about driver diagrams, the more I understood it, and the more I understood its effectiveness, and now it's really being used in a number of areas. So thanks to the knowledge I acquired during the program, I was able to go further, more effectively, and so that's really one of the key benefits. And I look forward to learning a lot more also about myself. This has given me renewed interest in learning about people around me. I've gained insights into other sectors in the organization that I sometimes knew nothing about. I've gotten closer to our CEO. Also patients. I've been working with patients in constructing the project, and that has brought us enormous benefits. Next slide. So I would say essentially I've learned again something that's extremely interesting, extremely important. I've learned again how to give its proper place to the human dimension. That's the raison d'etre of organizations. I really was able to reflect back, circle back to the reasons why I started out and working in doing the wonderful job of a manager, a leader. I was reminded that we can always learn more about in order to further the goals of our organization. So next slide to finish. A very short story. During the Montreal session, some of us looked a little sleepy. It was a bit intense. There were 10 very full, very rich days. And we were really excited by the content, by the readings we had to do, the exercises, all that. And the foundation team wanted to have an appropriate dosage or appropriate adjustment. Sometimes when we looked at a little sleepy, they dialed down the elements in order, the content in order to keep us awake while remaining very relevant and efficient. And we also had lots of fun. There was a lounge where we could meet in the evening after a long day. There was a candy bar at one point, so that we could meet in front of the candy bar. So this was a very effective approach, and I want to thank the faculty. That is a team that really embodies the principles that they teach. So next slide. I hope that this presentation will have given you a desire to be part of Cohort 13. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in Toronto in June 2017.
Thank you very much, Isabelle, for that inspiring and very clever summary of your experience to date in the fellowship. It was tremendous. So my name is Terry Sullivan, and I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of the curriculum, the faculty, and the coaching system that's connected with Extra. And I would say that Extra has been from the beginning the most intensive improvement initiative that the Canadian Foundation for Healthcare Improvement has on offer. We are in year 12, planning for year 13, and the curriculum has been refined and improved every year. The current focus we have is really looking at a spectrum of core competencies, being able to extract and interpret evidence for improvement, a collaborative effort, looking at designing the improvement overall, how to lead change and to precipitate action in different healthcare organizations, how to measure and improve performance and communicate the results, and ultimately how to sustain an improvement. So the program is really about building up a breakthrough in a specific area to create improvement, and then looking to how we might scale it up organizationally. The program is delivered through 4 interactive learning modules that focus on a balance of theory, improvement science, and a range of tools for improvement that have been compiled over the past few years, and adapting new tools as they emerge. The teams are guided and advised through the 14 months of the program by faculty and a dedicated coaching team with unique coaches for each team overall. The idea is to link the competency to the progress of the team as they design, implement, evaluate, and spread and sustain their effort for improvement, and that is how the 4 stages of the curriculum evolve, and I'll come back to that momentarily. The program is also underpinned by CFHI's 6 levers for accelerating improvement. You can see them there in front of you. And the program introduces a number of frameworks and tools and techniques in a way that creates a menu of approaches to tackle different problems. But the common frameworks we use are the Institute for Healthcare Improvement's Triple Aim, the National Health Service in the UK, Highly Adaptable Improvement, and the Canadian LEADS framework for leadership overall. So as to the actual bundles of curriculum activity, Module 1 is really focused in simple terms on building the organizational and team readiness, and on designing and specifying more precisely what is the improvement project, because as Isabelle pointed out, people come in with a bundle of ideas, and we work very hard to sharpen those up together and ensure that we are clear on what we're trying to do, and we're clear on how we're going to move the project forward. The second module focuses on leadership competencies, both individual and team leadership activities, and how to refine the improvement project Sometimes teams come in with either underdeveloped or overdeveloped ambitions, and we want to try to scale the ambition to what is plausible and doable, and so we help refine in Module 2. In Module 3, we're very much focused on the initiation of execution, on accelerating progress, and putting the improvement project in place, executing against the project. And I'd say over the course of the last decade, that is something that has rapidly improved. Fellows coming in with an idea and actually beginning to execute or completely executing their idea in the lifespan of the fellowship. Finally, in Module 4, we focus on taking the improvement project and looking for where and how the project might be sustained and spread, and sharing these results. And this is really the recipe for generating improvement in our entire delivery system. Find an area, develop a solution to the problem, implement it, scale it, and spread it. And that's what the fellows are picking up in the course of the program. The program also offers the option of essentially receiving credit towards the Certified Health Education Certificate in the College of Canadian Health Leaders. And for those that may be interested historically and possibly again in the future, there are extended degree programs available through the University of Montreal, a master's level, and the University of Toronto. And if you're interested in that, we can follow up together to explore additional work once the fellowship is completed. Finally, just a word about the faculty and the coaches. You see a handful of the ragtag talent there in front of you, but we actually have superb faculty, bilingual faculty from Canada, from the UK, from the US, and from further afield who come and participate and bring their special skill and teaching expertise to the program. We also have a dedicated coach for each team, and the coach really assists throughout the program in helping to work with the individual teams to actually refine with their host organization and together as a team their project as we go through the program, and drawing in the resources that can be useful to the team if there are particular areas of challenge or particular areas of interest that they would like to pursue. And the coaches themselves are extremely well experienced leaders that have worked in a variety of delivery organizations and within government as well. So you're very lucky to have a very talented group of folks who operate as faculty and as coaches to help as Sherpas and instructors through this whole experience. So including the idea of keeping office hours in the case of the coaches to be able to interact with regularity with the teams. So Erin, back to you then for the application process.
Great. Thanks, Terry. I'm just mindful of the time. We've got about 10 minutes left in the call today, so I encourage you to not hesitate and submit any questions you may have through the chat box, and we'll do our best to address those as we move forward. So in the next part of the presentation, I'm really going to talk about the application and what it means to put that together, because it's no small feat to put together an organizational application. So next slide. So who should apply? I've already spoken to this. It really is, it can be one organization, it can be a team of organizations who want to really focus on building improvement, enhance leadership skill, and create partnerships across regions and sectors to address a priority health system issue. It also can be, we're more than welcoming, or we've had traditional sort of organizations participate, from health authorities, from healthcare delivery organizations, primary care practices. Public health has been involved in the program, ministries of health or departments of health. And I think with a focus on integrated care close to home, we're very hopeful that we'll see more multi-organizational applications as we see small community-based organizations working more collaboratively with perhaps larger institutions, because they need to think about how we're going to transition and work collaboratively across the system and rather than in silos. So that's our hope with this theme, is that it will really bring some unique collaborations to the program and to the dialogue. We're also very much welcoming of applications outside of Canada. So if you think you know a team you'd want to work with and or that you would recommend, it certainly only enhances the Canadian fellowship discussion and that of the fellows when we have international exemplars and comparators, and that's true. That's why we bring in, as Terry mentioned, a whole cast of faculty from across the country and internationally, but I think it's also very unique. We welcome teams abroad as well. Okay, so in terms of the next several slides, I've actually created this a bit crafty. I have check boxes here, and so for those of you who are thinking you might want to try to convince your organization to put an application together, be mindful of these check boxes. These are key things that we will be looking for in terms of the application and wanting to put together. So fellows can come from a range of organizations. They must have a scope of authority and responsibility with influence within the organization. So certainly some fellows are sort of at that senior executive level. Others are on the verge of or new to that sphere, but they need to have a significant scope of authority and responsibility for managing a team and budget and whatnot. The improvement team, there's some key elements I want to draw your attention to here. Access to strategic advice and guidance from key leaders. So we're recommending that organizations, based on our experience of currently, organizations are really succeeding when they have a really solid base of advice giving from within and across organizations. So 2 patient advisors at a minimum on that advisory group should be participating to give some strategic advice and guidance to the organizations. It also needs, the improvement team itself needs to include a member who has a clinical or provider perspective, as well as patients and family, but we leave that to each of the organizations to determine based on the nature of their improvement project. And then certainly they need adequate support around performance measurement and evaluation and project management support to make the fellowship viable. I have a question here coming in from, can teams from different provinces come together and apply together? Absolutely. We have had cross-provincial applications in the past. I believe it was cohort 11 when we had a fantastic team from both Nova Scotia and BC, so we like to do it in extremes with the two furthest most provinces coming together. Very successful, and they continue to be supported by CFHI and working together today. So absolutely welcome applications from within regions and across regions and provinces and territories. So great question. Thanks, Patrick. Okay, next slide. CEOs and the senior leadership. So this is really critical, and I think an important evolution of the program, that the CEOs are far more engaged. They're not sort of just giving advice and guidance, but they are active participants in the program. Not in the intense way in which the fellows are, of course, but we are certainly thinking about how we engage with them on a regular basis, and that's a bit of how your coach comes into play as well. The coaches provide an important, all of the lead coaches are former ADMs and DMs and CEOs at that level. So their role is both to coach the improvement team and the fellows, as well as coaching the organization, including its senior leadership. So the CEOs provide strategic advice and guidance. They actively participate in organizational assessment processes, site visits, and other reporting mechanisms like our reporting webinars and the final presentation. And they ensure that the fellows actually have the dedicated time to work that they previously committed to in the Memorandum of Understanding. Next slide. I won't speak to this in depth. The key point to this slide is that we have a special theme this year. You can apply within it or to an open call within the program, and we've had all sorts of improvement projects across all of the quality domains which you see on the screen before you. So we encourage you to think very broadly about what your improvement priorities at your organization might be and that are of interest to your province and territory, and think about that and when you're putting together your application. So to that end, the improvement project should align, as I said, with the strategic priorities and quality improvement performance indicators and goals of the organization. And new this year, we're introducing a pre-application coaching call. As Terry said, we're moving people much more rapidly toward implementation, and so we therefore really want to make sure that You have the best foot forward. It takes a lot to assemble an application, so we want to put you in a good path, and so we're offering a 30-minute call with a CFHI coach who will help you in sort of thinking about how your improvement project is framed, and how you are making sure you're assembling the right team, so you're just that much further ahead once you come into the program. So some practical elements here. You must submit, there's an online application, although this year we have produced a Word version, which I think will be quite helpful and as a tool as you assemble your application, because many people usually are involved in the development of that application. So, but it ultimately must be submitted online by the deadline, which is February 15th, before midnight. And so we do have new this year also a unique link that will enable you to share and come back to your application again and again, so you can share that link with multiple people in case they need to, you work collaboratively on the development of your application. A few key dates there. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's okay. February 2017, we at the CFHI staff will be screening to make sure that the applications we receive are eligible. Then those will be distributed to our extra advisory committee member who serve as our merit review for the extra program. They'll review the applications, and then in April we will announce the teams that have been invited to participate, and we'll proceed with having memorandums of understanding, which will also very shortly be posted to the web as well for you to review in advance. The program fee is $9,500 per fellow for a minimum of 3 fellows and a maximum of 4. You can decide how that organizational cost is shared. So if you are working in a multi-organizational, more than one organization applying together, then you can share that. So if you have a smaller organization that might have more difficulty coming up with those dollars, but has the passion and the time, then organizations are encouraged to work together to figure out how best to distribute that program fee. And for that, CFHI covers the travel, the accommodations, and 2 meals a day for the 4 in-person residency sessions, as well as all of the support for the faculty, the coaches, the curriculum, and the online platform known as the CFHI Desktop. There's more information about the timeline available in our prospectus, so I'll keep moving along. And I think I've covered the key dates. I've mentioned the residency sessions prior, and then the final presentations are in June of 2018, with final reporting deliverables due as of August 2018. So you have a few months to tie the bow on your improvement project and submit your final results in August of 2018. There's lots of information on the CFHI website about the extra improvement projects led by extra fellows, including a number of this is our current Canadian Armed Forces team, and so there are 3 stories featuring various current and past extra projects on our web, so we'll follow up with the link to those for you following the call today. Okay, and thank you so much for everybody's attention today. We really appreciate your feedback. We're going to move now. We're going to move now to our polling questions and provide feedback. So we ask that you please take a moment to provide us some feedback on today's session. We invite you also to sign up for CFHI's newsletter and keep an eye on your email for a full list of our upcoming webinars. Once again, I'd like to thank both Isabelle and Terry Sullivan for their excellent presentations, and Kelly and Sheena, of course, who make these webinars happen, and all of you, our audience, for joining our call today. This does conclude today's webinar. Have a great day.